Hi, BrenTech here, where tech is made simple. So once again, it seems that there's beef between Mozilla and Microsoft. And that's according to this blog post by Mozilla. Old habits die hard. Microsoft tries to limit our options this time with AI. So I thought I'd just do a quick video to give you an overview as to what Mozilla is going on about in this post. And I'll leave the article in the description if you'd like a more in-depth read. Now, Mozilla says in the blog post that recently Microsoft announced that it's pulling back Copilot from several of its core Windows apps, Photos, Notepad, the snipping tool, and widgets. And I posted on removing Copilot from Notepad yesterday. I'll leave that video linked down below and in the end screen. Mozilla carries on to say, rolling back these forced AI integrations is the right move, which I think a lot of us agree with. But this is just the most recent example of Microsoft going too far without user consent. And then Mozilla argues that Copilot was pushed onto users, saying that over the past year, Copilot wasn't offered to Windows users. It was installed on them. Mozilla says the Microsoft 365 Copilot app began auto-installing on any Windows device running Microsoft 365 desktop apps with no prompt and no consent. A new physical keyboard key was added to laptops that launched Copilot by default, with no simple way to remap it. By default, Copilot was pinned to the taskbar starting with Windows 11 PCs, and going a step further, Microsoft planned to embed it into three of the most fundamental surfaces for the operating system: the Windows Notification Center, the Settings app, and File Explorer. And then Mozilla says, then came the user backlash, which we have been talking about on this channel in depth. Mozilla says because of this user backlash, when Microsoft says it now wants to be intentional about Copilot, they're really admitting that they made repeated choices to serve their business over their customers. And I do agree with that. Mozilla also says that Microsoft has continued to escalate its use of dark patterns to force behaviors that help the bottom line, not people's lives. And then Mozilla gives a few examples from the rollout of Windows 11 that have continued to strip users of their choice. So we can have a quick look at those. First of all, the Windows search bar embedded in the taskbar on both Windows 10 and 11 is hard-coded to open only Microsoft Edge, regardless of the default browser. Windows has not implemented a true device migration system like we see with Android, iOS, and macOS, where your apps, settings, and data are all reflected on your device, on your new device, when you buy a new computer. Instead, the defaults are changed back to Microsoft's own products. Third point, Microsoft Outlook and Microsoft Teams by default ignore your default browser selection and open links directly in Edge. Fourth point, Windows does not offer a simple prompt that other browsers can trigger asking to become your default browser. Instead, other browsers have to direct you to Windows settings and hope you finish the multi-step process. So that's, according to Mozilla, a couple of extra examples that it says are stripping users of their choice. Now, Mozilla says, we, and I'm quoting, we like Microsoft and basically every tech company have been asking ourselves the same question. What does it mean for AI to be genuinely useful? For us, Mozilla says, the answer is simple. AI should work on your terms, not ours. And I agree with that. And I'm sure a lot of you will too. Firefox's goal is to create AI enhancements that are made for people, not just because they can increase profit, quote unquote. And in all fairness to Mozilla, if we head into the settings of Firefox, we do get AI controls. Although Mozilla has AI integrated into the browser, you have a kill switch where you can block AI enhancements. So if you toggle that on, as we have spoken about previously on the channel, it's basically a kill switch to block all the AI that Mozilla has bundled into the browser, which obviously gives users a lot more choice, which I do think is a good move, as I've mentioned previously. Unlike, obviously, Microsoft in the Edge browser, you don't get a kill switch. Mozilla says the premise is simple. You should decide whether AI is part of your browsing experience at all. Not big tech not Mozilla, you. That's according to the blog post. And then they finish off saying, when a company with Microsoft's reach continues to control users and only walks it back when the noise gets loud, it shapes what people expect from technology. And I do agree with that. I think Microsoft kind of pushes the limits a little bit, crosses the line, and then you get the backlash, and then they do a 180 or a 180 to some degree or the other. And they have a history of doing that. So that's an interesting one. And then Mozilla says, finishing off the post, that people have been clear about what they want when it comes to this era of the internet. They want to feel like they're in control of their own devices and their own data. That's the internet Mozilla says it's trying to build. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you agree with the latest beef between Mozilla and Microsoft? Would be interested to know. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.